Hello, 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 and welcome to AADA05, a course, a course that we teach for the first-year students in LTH in Lund University. And this course is all about showing you the basics of AutoCAD and getting you into CAD drawing. So it's going to be all about two-dimensional drawing rather than three-dimensional modeling at first. But even with that, there's a lot of things to learn and a lot of things to understand. So we'll be using AutoCAD exactly for that, right? Once you actually opened up AutoCAD, you will be greeted with this welcome screen, right? The start screen. And the start screen is going to have the recent documents row or whatever, column, I guess. And it's going to have the basic buttons, get started, open files, and blah, blah, blah. So recent documents is basically, if you have already worked on something, that file is going to pop up here just for convenience. If you haven't, it's going to be empty, right? So instead, you just press the start drawing. And that's exactly what we're going to do, actually. Let me see. Okay. So we're going to click on start drawing. Like that. Okay, so this is what we have here, this kind of user interface. And you can't really see the top of the row, but there's basically nothing there that's super important. It's just a bunch of different icons. If you click on the large icon in the top left corner, the large A button, you'll see all of the same tools that are available for you. Create a new file, open an existing one, save files, export files, publish files, or print files, I guess. Right? So printing is, well, actually, I'll talk about it once we get there, right? But the basic menu is here, right? It's located underneath that large A button. Underneath it, you have what's called the ribbon menu. And this is, the ribbon menu has a bunch of tabs. So it's like categories with the tools that you can use. But honestly, the faster you learn the commands for the tools rather than the clicking on the icons of the tools, the better it is, right? Because it just speeds up your drawing process quite a bit once you actually remember the shortcuts or the commands for the tools. So honestly, I almost never use the icons anymore. I just type in the commands, and anyone that you ask who is using AutoCAD does the same. Nevertheless, we will be kind of clicking on these and looking where they are, but also we will be memorizing the shortcuts for them as well. There is this home tab. So the home tab is going to be 99% of the time we are going to be spending in the home tab. Then we have the insert tab. From time to time, we will go in here and use one or two tools from here. There's not much here. Then we have the annotate tab where, yeah, we will be spending good time here as well. Every other tab we ignore it. It doesn't exist to us. We don't care, right? So it's only these three tabs. By now, you might be wondering, well, that you probably have more stuff here, right? More floating windows here. That might happen because you either have AutoCAD architecture rather than just regular AutoCAD, or maybe these days AutoCAD just ships with multiple open panels. Actually, can I show you? Let's see if I close that. No. Start drawing. It doesn't open up any panels here, but if you have any panels opened up that are just floating on the screen, close them. Click the X buttons and then just close them. You don't need to see them, right? Just clean up the screen. One more thing is, right now, what you see here on the screen is me logged into a school's computer, right? So on the school's computers, for instance, we are running AutoCAD Architecture 2019. And the home tab has these three-dimensional tools of wall, door, and so on. And also it does have the two-dimensional tools. We will not be using three-dimensional tools in this course at all because, first of all, AutoCAD is not that great for three-dimensional modeling compared to competitors. Second of all, it's better to first learn how to draw and then learn how to model rather than kind of trying to learn everything all at once. It's much a easier learning curve that way. So we will be only using 2D drawings. There's one more thing that I want to check, and I will be checking. I will check if there's a possibility on how to hide this, and that the way you hide this is if you use a different profile, a different viewing template. And I'll just try. Let me close this. Let me try to open it again. But this time around, what if we use no template metric? No, it still opens up. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, so those of you who have this build tab here, just ignore it. We will not be using it. We will be using this. And I'll be kind of switching back and forth between the two versions, this version and the version that I have. This version right here, just so that everyone sees, where different tools are located. One more thing is the course website. If we go to the course website, it does have AutoCAD basic commands PDF right here, which I will open. And actually I'll be using it to, and this is not a lot of tools, but I will be using it to go through these tools and kind of explain you what they do before we actually begin, well, most of them, before we begin actually going deep into drawing a building. I will be showing how to do that as well. But first, let's just kind of look at the tools. So we have that opened as well, just ready for you. Right, so let's jump into AutoCAD, back into AutoCAD. And here, this grid that you see here is your main viewport, right? And it's basically a two-dimensional view. You can make it three-dimensional with this box here by clicking on the side of the box, and now it's a three-dimensional space, three-dimensional grid. But you don't want to do that. So what you do is you just click on the top of the box, like so, and it's going to rotate back to 2 dimensions. We are going to draw it in everything in 2 dimensions flat, right? If your top, the name top, is not oriented properly, let's say if it's like so, if it's rotated like so, just use these arrows to kind of rotate it back to normal. So this is what you want to see: north, south, east, west, top, right? Okay. The way you move inside of this view is there's no right click and holding, right? Instead, if you click and hold the scroll wheel of the mouse, you can pan the view, right? Like that. If you scroll the wheel, of course, you zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in, right, into the view. And that's it. That's all you need, honestly. You just need to be able to pan the view and zoom into the cursor. By the way, it always zooms into where you have your cursor. That's important. Selecting objects is done through by clicking and dragging the mouse. And by now you will notice that if you click and drag the mouse with the left mouse button, it kind of does this. So this is what's called like a smart selection. I absolutely hate it. Or lasso tool, lasso selection tool method. I absolutely hate it. I think it's obnoxious. So the first thing that we will actually do is we will get rid of it, right? So let's get rid of that. I just want it to be like a rectangular marking, but it doesn't let me. To get rid of it, here in the bottom, you have the command line. This is where you write all of the commands, right? And I can just write options and hit enter. Right? So I wrote options, I hit enter, and it opens up options for me. Options. And then in the options tab or options menu, I can go to, actually, let's take a look at this real quick, just so that you know what's going on. Files, this is basically where all of the supporting files are located. You don't care about this. Display is, you can change the color theme between dark and light, whatever. Crosshair size, let me show you. I'll increase the crosshair size to 100, hit apply, hit OK, and now my crosshair looks like this. This is quite useful when you want to, or my mouse, this is quite useful when you want to align, see if stuff is aligned properly. And I honestly, I have been using it for quite a while. It's quite convenient, but at the same time, sometimes it gets in the way, right? I'll type in options again and make it smaller. Was it 5? I think it was 5. I don't remember. Are you 5? Yeah, it was 5. Okay. So I changed it back to 5. Everything else here is just basically how are things shown. I wouldn't suggest you going deep into this and changing stuff up. Definitely not now, later, once you're used to the program. Opening and saving, it's basically going to ask you what kind of format do you want to always save the file in, and that's, don't argue with the program. It knows what it's doing, so don't mess around here. Plot and publish as well is it's basically where will you export out the PDFs. Don't argue with the program. System, let's ignore it. User preferences, let's definitely ignore it. Or wait, yes. Drafting and 3D modeling. I'm just really quickly going through this and seeing if there's anything worth mentioning. Not really. Defaults are absolutely fine. 3D modeling, we're not going to do any 3D modeling, so we don't care. And then selection. So this is the big boy where the culprit behind our lasso tool selection, right? So it's here, allow, press, and drag for lasso. This line right here and this tick mark right here is the culprit. So I'll untick it and I'll just hit apply and hit OK. And now it's fine. You'll notice that the color is different depending if I'm going from bottom up or from top to bottom, but I will talk about that later. What matters is that it's a rectangle, right? And not that ugly lasso. Okay, so that's the first thing. Let me double check if in the other version, in this our AutoCAD architecture version, if it's the same. I'll just go to options, selection. Yeah, it's the same. Allow, press, and drag for lasso, and now it works. Okay. Let's jump back here. So that's that. Below you have model space, layout space, and so on. We will be talking about those during the last tutorial, not right now. And then you have a bunch of stuff here. That is not enough stuff. I want to see more. Oh yeah, okay, that's enough stuff. That's good. We will talk about those as well later. For now, let's actually start looking into the tools and start drawing, right? That's the fun part. The question is, what are the units, the measurements in which we draw? Is it centimeters? Is it millimeters? Is it inches? Is it horses per second? You know, what kind of dimensions are we talking about? I need to actually make sure that I'm drawing, for instance, in millimeters. I'm used to drawing in millimeters. So what I will do is I will type a command called units. Units, enter. And here I will see that indeed I am drawing in millimeters. And this is my precision of drawing, 0.0000 millimeters, right? So it's pretty damn precise. And degrees are, or sorry, the angle is in degrees, not in radians. That's great. The precision is only full numbers of degrees, which I have a problem with. I do want the precision to be slightly larger for degrees, at least, one number after the comma. So I'll just choose 0.0. And then lighting, we don't care. We don't care about. Once I've made sure that it's millimeters and degrees, I'll just hit OK. And now we know that we are drawing in millimeters. Okay, now it's time to draw. The easiest thing to draw is a line, right? So the line tool is located here. Well, the one that says line. And if you don't see it, then you might have this version where, yeah, it's here, right? Or the shortcut for the line tool is L. Enter. L is short for line. Once you hit L, enter, or you click on this icon here, you will start reading. You will need to read what it's asking of you in the command line. So the way AutoCAD communicates with you about what it wants from you to actually be able to draw stuff is through the command line. So here it's asking line specify first point. Sure, I need to click somewhere, right? So I'll just click. Okay. Then command line immediately switches to another question, specify next point, right? Sure, I'll click again. And then AutoCAD keeps asking me to specify next point. Okay, next point. Okay, so you can see that I can keep doing this for a while, right? Just keep drawing the lines, which is not, at some point I want to stop. So the way you stop is you just hit enter, right? To finish the tool, to finish the command. You hit enter and you have a bunch of lines. So now if I hover my mouse over them, I can see that only segments, like these straight line segments, get highlighted, and I can kind of select them, right? Select this one, select that one, for instance. So I can click on them to select. That's cool. How do I unselect? Well, I hit escape. Escape unselects them, right? What if I want to select many of them without actually, kind of clicking on each individual line segment? Well, I can drag this rectangle here around the ones that I'm going to select, release, and these get selected, right? Which actually, and then escape to unselect, of course, which actually, yeah, let's do a small tutorial about selection here, because we already have some geometry that's available for us. So I'm going to, as I mentioned before, there are two ways of how to select. The blue rectangle, which happens when you drag from left to right, and the green rectangle, which happens when you drag from right to left, right? So the blue rectangle only selects things that are completely inside of that rectangle, right? So for instance, let's look at this line right here. This line right here, right? If I drag the blue rectangle and it's crossing that line and I release, that line doesn't get selected because it's not fully inside, it wasn't fully inside of that blue rectangle. If I drag a green rectangle and it's crossing the line in the same way, it is going to be selected, right? That's because the blue line only selects things that are completely, or blue rectangle, blue selection rectangle only selects things that are completely inside of it, while the green selection rectangle selects things that are inside of it and things that it's hitting, things that it's crossing, right? So again, the blue rectangle selection looks like that, while the green rectangle selection looks like that, because it's hitting this line, hitting this line, hitting this line, and hitting this line, right? So that's that. Right, so now we have something drawn. Cool. Let's select all of it and hit delete. You know, that's how you get rid of stuff. You just hit the delete button. Mac users, backspace probably, I don't remember. You can type in delete, I think. No, yes, erase, sorry. You can type in erase command and it's going to erase it. Let me just see here. L, same thing. Good. I'm just double checking if, yeah, okay. Double checking if there are no kind of discrepancies between the two versions. That's good for now. So that's our line tool, which is right here. That's the first tool. Let me talk more about it, just so that you get a better idea of how things are drawn. So that line tool, again, L, enter for line, L, enter. I will specify the first point by just clicking, but then the second point, let's say I want it at this angle, whatever angle, right? But I want it to be, let's say 2 meters long, right? 2000 millimeters. So what I do is before I click again, you know, to finish the tool, or to finish the line, before I click again, I can type in the desired length, 2000, you know, 2 meters, enter. And now it becomes exactly 2 meters long in that direction, right? Which is quite useful. What if I want to draw this line segment completely horizontal, right? Or completely vertical, doesn't matter. Then the tool that does that is called orthographic snapping. And the shortcut for it is F8. F8 in the top of your keyboard, F8. Or a button that does that is located right here in the bottom of the screen, ortho mode. And you can see in the bracket, it says F8 as well. If ortho mode is turned on, if I click on it, or if I hit F8, right? So with F8, I can turn it on or off, right? If I hit F8 or turn it on, and I try to draw the line, and this time let me just use the tool, the icon here, and I draw the line, you can see that it's locked to either horizontal or vertical position, right? Which is quite useful. For instance, I want to say 5,000 millimeters, or not. Let's do 2,000. 5,000 was way too long. 2,000 millimeters, 500 millimeters, 1,000 millimeters, 500 more, 300 millimeters, 750. I don't know how long this is. Probably around 700 millimeters. Yes, and then close it off and hit enter. Right? I can have pretty precise dimensions when I have ortho on. So that's quite useful. I will show you later a few more tips and tricks in terms of the angles and snapping to different angles, but ortho, turning ortho on and off is one of the smoothest workflows, let's say, or most useful workflows. Let me get rid of this. So that's how you work with lines and then horizontal and vertical snapping of lines. Let me turn off ortho for now. So I either click here on this icon or just hit F8 and I can see that that icon is turned off now. I need to check here if that's the same thing. Yes, you do have ortho mode here. That's good. Okay, coming back here. So that's line, right? Next up is polyline, I believe. Yes, next up is polyline. So Line tool is the most simplistic tool, and all it can do is just straight line segments that are all, so to say, exploded. They are separated line segments, right? Polyline tool, on the other hand, is it can contain much more information inside of it. What I mean by that is, first of all, let's learn the shortcut for it. The shortcut is PL, enter, or clicking the icon, of course, but PL, enter, gives you the polyline tool. And with orthographic snapping turned off, I will just quickly draw a polyline without any dimensions whatsoever. I'll just draw it, whatever. I have no idea what I'm drawing, but it is what it is. Yeah, let's say something like that. And oops, and hit enter to finish the tool. So now this is a polyline rather than a line tool. If I click on this, you can see that everything gets selected. This is a type of geometry that consists of multiple lines, and all of them are joined into a chain of lines. It's super convenient for selection purposes. It's super convenient to work with, and it doesn't really have any drawbacks. Almost all of the lines that I draw during the design process and the technical process later on are polylines, not lines. Keep that in mind. Right, so we have our polyline. Can you make a polyline into multiple lines, right? Can you explode a polyline into multiple lines? Yes, you can, of course. You can just select it. Oh, by the way, if I use the blue selection rectangle, it will not select unless I have the whole polyline inside of my blue selection rectangle. While with the green one, I can just kind of slightly hit it and it will select the whole thing. Quite useful. So right, we have a polyline. How do we make it into multiple lines? How do we explode it? Well, we use the explode tool. When we have it selected, we just type in explode. I think it's EXPL, explode. Enter. And it just explodes. Right? So now all of these are separate line segments. And then you go, oh no, I didn't want to explode it. What do I do now? Well, if you just did it really recently, you can just do Ctrl-Z, undo, and it's going to undo your tool, right? Ctrl-Z, Ctrl-Z is undo. Ctrl-Y, I believe, is redo. Yeah. Or if you don't want to do Ctrl-Z, or rather, if you already have a bunch of exploded lines and you want to join them up, well, you just select all of them and type in join and hit enter. And it just joins all of them up into one polyline, back into one polyline. So there is explode and there is join, right? Quite useful. Okay, there are more things about the polyline that I kind of want to show you. Let me just think. If it's the time to show you those things. Well, maybe. Sure. Let's start pretty hardcore. PL, enter. So polyline. I'll start drawing, and I'll just create the first line segment. And what if I don't want this to be a straight line? What if I want this to be a curve, an arc, right? I can do it with a polyline tool. Here in the bottom, you can see that it does have much more settings to choose from rather than just having give me the next point, because it says specify next point, or is it an arc? Is it closed? Would you like to close it? Is it half width? And so on. So there are a lot of hidden settings in these tools that you will learn them once you need them. Let's say it like that, right? Once you have a problem to solve, then you will learn that different tools have different like small settings that you can tweak to solve that problem. We definitely don't have time to go through all of the settings of all of the tools in AutoCAD. It's a little bit too big for that. But the basic one that I want to show you is the arc, right? And you can see that A is highlighted, right? So what I'm going to do is I could just click here, but rather I will press A, type in A. As I'm still drawing the polyline, by the way, I'll press A, hit enter, and now I'm in what's called an arc mode, right? So you can see that all of the tools have changed, or not the tools, the settings have changed, and I have even more settings to work with. But for now, I'll just work with this, right? So I have the arc tool, and I can mess around with it quite a bit. So something like that. And now if I want to change it back to the line tool, all I need to do is just type in L and hit enter. And now we're continuing, we continue drawing in straight line segments, right? Once we're done, we just hit enter, and now we have this kind of polyline. Quite nice, quite useful, which can also, by the way, be exploded, and you know, these settings or these arcs can be deleted off and whatnot. Why is my AutoCAD just lagged a bit, but that's fine. So that's polyline, and that's all of the, not all of them, just one hidden setting inside of polyline. I will show you more later, once we actually need them. Right, let's cross off polyline from our list, and then we have the arc tool and the circle tool. Oh yeah, I already showed you. I already showed you the advanced polyline. Apologies for that, for not keeping to the script. I just wanted to show it to you. Okay, let's jump to arc and circle tools. They are located here, of course, circle, arc, right? And also, also here you have the arc and you have the circle, but you don't have the polyline here. But if you expand it by clicking this small triangle here, you will see the polyline pop up here. Again, I do suggest you using the command line instead. So we have the arc and the circle. Well, let's start with the circle, it's easier. So circle is C, enter. You just click on where you want the circle center to be, and you kind of type in the radius that you want. Let's say 250, right? So now we know that the diameter of the circle is 500, radius 250, and it's located right here. Cool. What else can we do with a circle? Let's see, C, enter. There's like, there are a few options here that we can use. And I will, for instance, without clicking anywhere, I will just select this 3P option. Select that. And now I will click 3 times on the screen, right? And you can see that those 3 clicks that I made describe the circle's position and radius, right? So that circle is touching those 3 points that I clicked. I can do it again. C, enter, 3 points, click, click. And then if I say that, well, actually I want the third one to be right here, it's going to be like a very weird circle. Okay. Click. So 3 points again, circle is touching them. Pretty cool. Then we have the arc tool, which is basically, I believe it's A. Yeah, A, short for arc. Hit enter. And it's basically specify start point of arc. Okay. Specify second point of arc. Okay. Specify the end of arc. Okay. So we have our arc done here. If I want it to be a little bit If I want to draw it differently, I can. By the way, when you hit enter, if you don't have any commands running and you hit enter, it repeats the last command that you did. So now I don't need to type in enter, I can just hit enter and it's going to kind of repeat the previous command, which was arc. Instead of specifying the start point, I will choose center here. So I'm starting to draw from the center, see from here, and then it's going to ask me to give it the start and to give it the end. Right? Now I'm basically just drawing part of the circle. Well, an arc is a part of a circle. Okay, so that's that. That's the circle and that's the arc. That there's nothing more, honestly, to them. There's also like rectangle tools and whatnot. Perhaps I should wait. I will be showing you rectangle tools later, though. There's no. I haven't even written it down here, so sure. Let's ignore them. For now, circle, arc, line, polyline is enough to describe. Okay, so these four tools, circle, arc, line, polyline, are enough to describe any kind of geometry. Absolutely. Like there's no type of geometry that you couldn't draw out with these tools, right? So the basics are super simple. And what a rectangle is basically a polyline with like parallel line segments, right? Making it a rectangle. I will just really quickly show it to you and then we'll jump into snapping possibilities. So rectangle. I just like to write rect, but wait. REC is enough for rectangle to start working as a command. But I don't know why I have a muscle memory of typing in RECT, rect. Hit enter. It's gonna start drawing the rectangle and it's going to ask me to give it the first point. Sure, I will just click. And then it's going to ask me to give it another corner point, right? Or I can give it the dimensions. So I think dimensions is a much more useful use case than just giving it 2 points. So I will choose dimensions. And I'll say specify length for rectangle. So I will say, well, my length should be, again, 2 meters, 2000 millimeters. That's the length. I hit enter and then I specify width for rectangle. So I'll say, let's do a pretty narrow one. So I'll say 10 centimeters, 100 millimeters, right? 100, enter. That's it, right? It kind of is asking me for, oh, right. Sorry. That's not it. Once we added the dimensions, now with a mouse click, I need to specify the alignment of the rectangle. Is it going down or is it going up, right? Down or up, down or up. I'll say up and I'll just click. That's it. Now it's done, right? And we have a rectangle, which is basically just a polyline. If I grab the polyline, PL, I started working with it with ortho on, which is F8. And I typed in 2000, enter, and I typed in 100, enter, 2000, enter, clicked here, enter. That's it. That's this absolutely, like these two geometries are absolutely the same. Right? So that's that. Okay, let's look into, delete that. Let's look into object snapping and ways of how you can snap to different parts of objects and kind of merge everything together much more, or rather use geometry as reference for creating more geometry. You'll see what I mean in a second. All right, so object snapping. Here in the bottom, right here, you will see OSnap tool, object snap tool, which basically that small arrow right next to it will expand. There we go. A menu. Oh, wait. There we go. Just fixing it. We'll expand the menu for what types of subgeometries can you snap to. So there are like endpoints of lines, there are midpoints of lines, and so on. So I'll start showing you different ways, different ways of how you can snap to geometry. So for now, let us untick all of the snaps all together, right? So nothing is marked. Click anywhere on the screen, and let's draw a line, right? Just a line from here, and I will be drawing it straight, like vertical. I'll just give it, so if you can't, just F8 or ortho snap, turn it on, and then you will be able to. And I'll just give it 2000 millimeters. Hit enter. Enter again. Right? Now it's drawn. And honestly, I just want to move it away from the 0, 0, 0 coordinate. So this guy right here is my 0, 0, 0. So I will just select it, M, enter, M to move. I'll just move it away. So when I try to move it with orthographic snap, maybe I need to do this slower. Sorry, I'm speeding. I will select it, M, enter, M short for move, enter. I will click anywhere on the screen. Doesn't matter where I click. And then as I kind of move my mouse, you can see that it's being moved in relation to my mouse cursor. But since I have orthographic snapping turned on, it can only move horizontally or vertically, right? So I'll hit F8 or turn off ortho snap here. And now I can move it anywhere on the screen. So I'll just move it somewhere here. It doesn't matter. Away from the 0, 0, 0. I'll zoom into it. Right? So that's my line tool. Now, since we have all of the object snapping turned off, if I want to create, let's say, a circle, or let's say a circle around this endpoint, I can't because, well, I can't snap to it. And I can get pretty close, but the closer I zoom in, I keep seeing that there's an error in my, it's going to be an error in my, in the center point where I place it, right? So this is not going to work. Instead, let me hit escape to close that tool. Instead, I am going to tick mark the endpoint snapping here. That's enabled now. And now if I choose my circle tool, I can click on it. Oh, actually, when I choose my circle tool and I hover my mouse next to the endpoint, you can see that there's this green icon appearing. That green icon basically tells me that I am going to snap and I'm going to start drawing from this point, right? From this endpoint. And it even says endpoint, right? So that means if I now click, the center point of this circle is right at the end of that line. So I can make it larger. Let's say 300 millimeters and hit enter. So now I have my line tool or my circle directly centered around the endpoint of the line. I can do this again. C, enter, from here, 300, enter, right? So I have my two circles. That's the first thing that you can snap to. Another thing that you can snap to is the midpoint, right? So let me enable that. Enable midpoint. Again, I'll get the circle. I'll start drawing the circle, or rather, I'll hover my mouse over where I imagine the midpoint of the line is going to be, which is right here. I'll click and start drawing, right? So you can see that it even gives me the mark. Let me do that again. As I'm hovering, it even gives me the triangular mark here and says midpoint, right? I'll draw it out and I'll say 500 for the radius, right? So this circle is located directly in the middle of this line. A circle, at least to my knowledge, yes, the circle doesn't have neither a start or end point, or it doesn't have a midpoint as well, because it's infinite in its length, right? So you can't snap to a circle in this way. Said that, there is the center snapping that we can do, right? Center snapping for a circle. So what I'm going to do is I will create one more circle somewhere close by, somewhere, I don't know, maybe here. I'll create one more circle and I'll just give it 500 millimeters again, right? And I will enable center snapping here. I'll draw, let's just draw another circle inside of this circle, right? So I'll choose a circle tool again. And now as I hover my mouse on the edge of the circle, you can see that green circle appearing, or green markup appearing right in the middle, right? If I click, my next circle is going to be drawn in the middle of the previous one, right? So I can give it 300 millimeters, for instance. And I can keep doing that, right? I can keep hitting enter to repeat the last command, and I can keep drawing it out, like so. Okay, that's one thing. Next up, we have geometric center. So geometric center is different from a center point in the sense that I believe if you have a rectangle, let me just check. I don't want to lie. Okay, if you have if you just use the center snapping, right? It doesn't have, it only works on arcs, and it only works on circles. It doesn't work on closed shapes. So if you have some sort of a closed shape, such as a rectangle, then geometric snapping is going to be the way to go, right? So I'll turn on geometric center, or geometric center snapping, sorry, is going to be the way to go. I'll turn on geometric center, and as I am moving along this rectangle, you can see that the middle, while it gives me that snowflake thingy, it doesn't give me a green icon, meaning that I can't snap to it. But if now I hover my mouse close to that snowflake, now I'm able to snap, right? I'll repeat it again, hovering my mouse, finding that until I see that snowflake appear, clicking on it and dragging out like that. Okay, so that's done. So that's geometric center. There's more stuff that you can do. For instance, if you have a polyline which makes a weird form, something like that, and as long as that polyline is closed, meaning it needs to end where it started, click, and then hit enter, right? It's a closed polyline right now. And I grab a circle, it will show me where the geometric centroid is, right? And I can snap to it, but it's of course going to be funky. It is accurate, mathematically it is an accurate geometric centroid of this particular shape, but it might be counterintuitive for you visually, right? Seeing it there. The way it's calculated is basically, it's an average of all of the corners, the average coordinate of all of the corners of this polyline. just for the geeks out there who want to know how it works. Okay, so that's that. Then we have node snapping, which I don't care, never use it. It's basically if you have points in your drawing, we will not be using points, so we don't care. I will not be even showing you this. Quadrant snapping, though, is quite useful. If I select it, tick mark that. Now every circle that I drew has a quadrant, right? It has a quadrant here, 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 and here. I can actually show them by choosing a circle, or rather on this one. And I can see that now I can snap to this spot here. I can snap to this spot here, this spot here, and this spot here, right? So I can snap to 4 points on each of the circles. Quite useful in some cases, right? And you can kind of go even deeper and then keep snapping to those quadrants to create pretty intense graphics. Right. So that's quadrant snapping. Next up, we have intersection. So a very simple explanation would be if I have a line tool, I just draw a line here and I draw another one here, right? Let me actually draw another one. Come on, I'll enter another one right here. If I want to snap to that particular point, I can by using the intersection snap, right? So it kind of finds all of the places where two geometries intersect, right? So I can draw a circle around that intersection now. Quite useful. In this case, you might kind of be using it for this, for instance, right? And then even smaller. Right? So that's intersections. It just finds intersections between any kind of two geometries, any type of two geometries. Right. So that's intersection snapping. Next. There's extension snapping. Later, not now. Ignore. Insertion snapping, no. Perpendicular snapping, though, is super useful. Let's say I have a line, or rather we already have a line. I want to draw another line from somewhere here, let's say from the center of this circle, that would go at 90 degrees angle to this line segment, right? So I want to start drawing a line from here, from the middle, and I want it to snap to 90 degrees, which is going to be somewhere here probably, somewhere here. I want to snap it at 90-degree angle to this line. So the way I do it is I enable, I'll escape out of that, enable perpendicular snapping, like this, grab the line tool, start drawing, and then it will give me where the perpendicular snap is. Once I click there, hit enter, I can see that between these two lines I have 90-degree angle. Really, really useful stuff. If you want to, let me delete that. If you want to, for instance, if you have more circles here and you need to kind of find the 90-degree snap from these two circles to this circle, for instance, you can always do that and then kind of continue on finding the snaps to. That's a very tight fit. For that, I need to zoom in. But yeah, right? So that's quite useful. Let me get rid of those two lines. No. Right. So that's perpendicular, or in other words, 90-degree snapping. Then we have tangent snapping. Tangent snapping is basically, it's much easier for me to show than it is to actually explain. let's say we have, well, we already have a circle here. And let's say we want to draw, we have one more circle here. We want to draw from the middle of the circle, from here, a line that's going to seamlessly connect to this circle right here. That is called a tangent line, right? And let me make sure that I have it turned on. I don't. Tangent, there we go. Now we have it turned on. And now I can draw from the middle and find this icon here, tangent. Click, enter. So now as the circle is going here, it will seamlessly transition to this line. And actually, visually explaining it, I think, let me do one thing. I will explain that tool in later stages of this project or of this tutorial. But let me just do this real quick. This line and the way it connects to the arc is now seamless. There is no sharp corner, right? So that's a tangent. Let me undo that. Tangents are quite useful in that regard. Right. I don't know what I'm drawing here. Something weird. Something weird for sure. So we have tangents, right? Maybe one goes here, maybe one goes here. Sure, why not? Next. Nearest snap. Oh, and that's actually going to be the last one, because apparent intersection, I don't like that kind of snapping. I prefer a different work method, so I will not be showing that. Nearest snapping is quite useful. Once you have it turned on and you want to create a circle, just somewhere on this line, it will constantly give you the nearest point to that line, right? Or nearest point here, right? Or nearest point here, right? So you can kind of just create a bunch of circles on another. Well, if you actually don't miss it, see, enter. A bunch of circles on already existing geometry, right? So that's actually any point that is closest will be fetched by the nearest snapping. That's about it. That's about it in terms of snapping tools. The key thing is you don't want to have all of the snapping tools enabled because it gets too convoluted. It tries to suggest too many ways of how you can snap to geometry, and it becomes a little bit tricky, a little bit bothersome to work around that. So usually what I like to do is I like to turn off tangent snapping. I like to turn off intersection, quadrant snapping, geometric center, and center. And I just leave endpoint, midpoint, perpendicular, and nearest snapping. Those are the mostly used ones. If I need some other snapping method, I will enable it just for that particular tool. A shortcut of how to turn on or off object snapping is F3 button, F3. But yeah. Usually I just always have it turned on. Oh, beautiful graphics that we've made here. Right, so that is snapping, right? That is snapping. Let's take a look if everything is all right here. Yeah, it's the same thing here in this workspace as well. Good, very good. Right, so next up we have the different ways of how you can modify geometry, right? So you can move it, you can copy it, you can rotate, scale it, mirror it, trim it, extend it, blah, blah, blah. Let's go through them. And once we're done with this, then we will start drawing our house, right? A little by little. Right, so first thing is move, right? That's a pretty simple one. Let's say I have this geometry here. I don't know which one to choose. Let's say all of this. I want all of this to move away, or to move somewhere, maybe to snap to this point right here, right? I can do that by selecting all of it, typing in M, hitting enter, M short for move, hitting enter, giving it, saying the base point, so clicking where I want the base point to be, and I actually want the base point to be in the middle, right? And I can't select the middle because I turned off the object snapping. So I will actually go in here and turn on center snapping right here. So now I can select the middle, click, and now I can move it. Again, if you can only move it horizontally or vertically, then you need to hit F8 or turn off orthographic snapping. So I can move it now, and I will just move it, let's say to here, doesn't matter, or maybe to the midpoint here. Yeah, sure, to the midpoint here. I'll just move it to the midpoint here, click again, that's it. It's now located here, right? Also, just like move, there is copy. I can select the geometry, I can type in copy, COP, I think, yeah, CO. Okay, CO is enough, but I use COP for some reason. CO, enter. Again, from the midpoint, let's say to, for now, I'll just kind of make a few copies horizontally. So I'll just hit F, or vertically. I'll just hit F8, click, click. If you want to copy or move something by a fixed amount, then instead of just clicking, you first describe the direction. Let's say it's my horizontal direction towards here, and then you type in by how much. So I will just say by 500 millimeters, enter. Well, that's not a lot, but you get the idea, right? So the initial geometry was copied to the side by 500 millimeters. Okay, that's move and copy. Then we have scale. Scale is basically just changing the size of the object. You can either scale a single object, select one, scale, type in scale, or SC, short for scale, enter. And then select the point around which you're going to scale the object, from which you're going to enlarge or shrink the object. So let's say it's going to be this corner point right here, or the middle of the circle, doesn't matter. This corner point right here. And I'll just say that the scale needs to be 5, right? 5 is 500%, 5 times larger, right? So this guy becomes 5 times larger. I'll Control Z to undo. I'll select it again, and I'll scale again around the same point, but this time around I'm gonna say 0.5. That is 50%, not 500. That is half of the size, right? So it gets shrunken down. That's scaling. Nothing fancy about it. Then we have, I believe, mirror, right? Yes, we have mirroring. So mirror is quite cool. Let me get rid of this. Let's say you already have this geometry done, or not done, but you have some sort of geometry and you want to mirror it to the other side. Usually you do that with doors and whatnot. But let's just say you want to mirror it. I can select all of it and type in MI, hit enter, MI short for mirror, hit enter. And then it's going to ask me to draw a mirror line. So it's basically going to be like the line around which it's going to mirror. It's much easier to show than to kind of talk about it. So that's my mirror line. Let me hit F8 to turn it off. And now I think it's even easier to see what's going on, right? So now I can mirror this. Quite useful, right? That's my mirroring. And I can do this this way. Oh yeah, and once you're finished mirroring, it's going to ask you, would you like to erase source objects or no? So would you like to delete the initial one, or would you like to keep it? I will say, don't erase, just keep it. So no. So we have mirrored this, right? And I can kind of do it again, mirror, let's say between these 2 points, like that, enter, right? Now I have this kind of geometry going on. Let me just double check here. Whatever, any kind of geometry. Select all of it, mirror here. Well, in case of here, it doesn't ask you right next to the cursor, but it asks you here in the command line. Would you like to erase source objects? Yes or no? By default, it's set to no, so you just hit enter and it's done. So that works in both versions as well. So that's mirroring. I really want to draw a line here, so I will. Maybe not from there, maybe from here to here. I don't know. I just think it's gonna look better if we have some geometry in between. So that's that is basically mirroring. Next, trim and extend. Okay. So for trimming, I actually need to show it with a much simpler example, and then we'll go in here and kind of I'll show you how to trim stuff in here. So a very simple example would be, I have a circle, I have a line, right? And the line crosses the circle. I want to get rid of this line segment that is inside of the circle. I can type in tr, trim, enter. It's going to tell me to select objects, and unfortunately it doesn't say what kind of objects, or select all. So I can just hit enter to say select all, enter, right? And it's then just going to say, okay, what would you like to trim? So I want to trim this, right? I just hover my mouse over it and you can see that it's gone. If I click, it's really gone, right? So I can trim it away. So what it does, what trimming does, it finds intersections, right? Intersection moments, and it deletes geometry inside of those intersection moments. Or not necessarily inside, because you can do something like this. TR, enter, enter, double enter, remember, and then click here, right? It just finds the intersections and kind of deletes stuff that's sticking out or going in. So you're basically erasing segments in that way. So if I were to look at the more complex example, let's say I want to clean this up, I can say tr, enter, enter, and then I can just kind of go to town and keep deleting this. And I'll purposely make a mistake, or not a mistake, but I'll do a thing that always happens, and I'll keep kind of going here and trimming away all of these segments. And at a certain point, I can't anymore. Well, I can still trim away this one, I think, yes. But now I can't trim, well, I can trim this. There we go. Now I can't trim anything else, never mind. Now I can't trim anything else. There we go. So these two segments here, right, can't be trimmed. And the reason for that is they both meet at their endpoints. So there's no way for me to kind of, these are full segments that are meeting in their endpoints, and they're not being crossed by any geometry, right? So the trimming will not work on them. So then I just kind of select them and delete them, right? So that they get trimmed away. As you're using trimming, tr, enter, it will, you can choose to select objects rather than selecting all. So I can select, for instance, these two objects, hit enter, and now everything that I trim, right, is just going to be trimmed by those two objects. And why can't I trim this? I can. It's just I need to zoom in. Fair enough, right? And of course, you can also trim objects themselves. So these are like active objects during trimming. What that means is that I can't, when I do it that way, I can't just jump in here and start trimming. It won't let me because it has nothing to do with this geometry right here. So I do prefer using tr, enter, and then just hitting enter again. and then going in here and trimming away anything that I want in any part of the drawing, right? Much more convenient for me with that select all method, right? That's that. Let me just clean it up because I like stuff when it's clean. There we go. Okay. Wait, nope. TR, enter. Almost forgot about these two. There we go. Now it's fine. So that's trimming. That is trimming. Then we have extend. Extend is basically if you have a polyline and it's doing this, and you have another one and it's doing this, and you want this polyline to elongate until it hits this polyline, right? Or this line segment elongate until it hits this line segment. That is extend. EX, enter. It's going to ask us to either select objects or select all. This time around, I always select the objects. And these are the objects towards which I'm going to extend, right? So first, I then select this line segment, right? I hit enter, and that's important. And then I can click on my other line segment, and it's going to be extended towards this object, right? So that's how extend works. There are some cases where it's of course not going to work. For instance, if I just say line, and I have this line, and I want this line segment to extend towards this one, it won't work, right? If I extend, enter, select this line segment, enter, and then try to select this line, it will not work. It will not extend. That's because there's no way for this line to extend so that it hits this line segment. Which actually brings us to, let's see if it brings us to, yes it does. It brings us to another tool that's called fillet. And the shortcut for it is F. F, enter, fillet, right? So fillet basically extends two line segments until they meet at a corner, right? Let's see this guy and this guy. If I fillet them, you and you, they get filleted into a corner. The reason why it's called fillet is because you can change the radius of the corner, right? So it doesn't need to be a sharp corner. Let me Control Z to undo, and let me fillet again. Fillet, or I write the full thing, F, enter. And here I'll just say radius. I'll click on the radius or type in R, enter. Doesn't matter if you click on or type in R. And here I can specify a radius. So I'll give it like 500 millimeters. I have no idea how long those lines are, but I assume 500 millimeters will work. 500, hit enter. And now I will click on the top line, click on the bottom line, and they get filleted. Quite nice, huh? Quite nice. And it gives us a fillet of radius of 500 millimeters. So that's how fillet works. There's also like options for fillet where we can see that. No, there's no options for fillet where we can see. Wait. Never mind. Ignore what I said. I thought that it was the same as in Rhino, but it's not. So just radius for now. We will just be using radius. Delete that. So that's fillet. Fillet doesn't work with objects that are parallel, of course, because there's no way for you to extend two objects that are parallel, two lines that are parallel. Okay. Okay, apparently it does work. What the hell? Okay, wait, fillet, radius 0. What if radius is 0? Will it not work then? It still works. That's a smart cookie. So then if you have two objects that are parallel and you try to fillet them, even if the radius, you specify the radius to be 0, it's going to create an arc that connects the two objects. That's nice. That's a new functionality of AutoCAD that wasn't there before. Definitely wasn't there before. Let's see it in the older version of AutoCAD, if that's also the case. Well, older version, 2019 is not that old. One line segment, another line segment, fillet. Come on, fillet. Fillet from here, here. Yeah, it does work here as well. Cool. See, I'm learning something new as well. So if you have two parallel line segments, apparently it's going to just create an arc between them with a fillet. Even if you say you don't want any radius for the fillet to have. Cool. What's next? Next up, we have zoom extends. Okay, so that's an important one. Wait, oh, wrong AutoCAD. Let's say here, right? I've been working on this and I have zoomed out. And I messed it up and I have no idea where I am, right? I have absolutely no idea where I am. So what you can do is you can say Control A to select all. So Control A selects everything that you have in your drawing. And then what you can do is you can type in Z, enter, E, enter. And it's going to zoom in to the geometry that you have selected. So if you're lost in your drawing, then Control A, Z, enter, E, enter really helps. But also it's quite useful where when you have like multiple drawings on one sheet, then just saying, well, let me copy, bam, 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 fade, bam, bam. Let's say you have multiple drawings on one sheet, and just so that you don't need to zoom in, zoom out, what you can do is you can just select Z, enter, E, enter. Oh, sorry. In this case, it would be Z, enter, S, enter, selected. O, enter. I'm a little bit rusty, apparently. Yes, okay. So it's going to be selecting the object, Z, enter, O, enter. Zoom to object. So zoom extends. I made a mistake during this tutorial. Zoom extends, you don't need to do Control A. You don't need to select all of the geometry. It already recognizes where that the geometry is as if it's selected. So Z, enter, E, enter, extends, will zoom into all of the geometries on your scene in your model file automatically. You don't need to select all of them beforehand. That's useful. Yeah, forgot about that one. I apologize. Z, enter, E, enter. There we go. We're zoomed in. So that's that. Zoom extends, quite useful. And then we have array and hatch. These two I will show you later. Once we have some geometry going on in the Rhino. This is an AutoCAD course in the AutoCAD file. Once you have some proper geometry going on, then I'll show those two. Then let's draw a building. Enough of this. Let's draw a plan first, right? So I'll keep this. Why not? I'll keep this, but here I'll start drawing my building. Right? So the first thing that you do before you, or actually no, I will not keep this. I will close this file altogether, or we can just select it, delete. There we go. Select it, delete it, clean sheet, to start with. The first thing that you do before you start drawing is you check the units. We already did that, right? We are drawing in millimeters. Second thing that you do when you before you start drawing is you create layers in which you're going to be drawing in. So up till now, we were drawing in a single layer, right? Which was the layer 0. Right? AutoCAD works in layers, and different line thicknesses, different line types, and line colors are described by different layers, right? And you can turn on and off those layers. It works in a similar way as Photoshop, actually, in this regard. One more thing that I didn't note is that AutoCAD is vector-based rather than raster-based. So think of it as Photoshop versus Illustrator, right? You're used to those two by now. Photoshop uses pixels, while Illustrator doesn't, meaning that you can zoom into geometry of Illustrator infinitely, and it's not going to change resolution, or it doesn't have a finite resolution, while in Photoshop, if you zoom in too close, then you'll start seeing the pixels, right? So any kind of 3D modeling or drawing software for commercial use is going to be vector-based. It means that your lines are infinite in their resolution, in their quality. That's important to know. Okay, layers, right? So how do we access layers? Well, they are located right here, the layers tab, of course, and you can see here it's our active layer, layer 0. And if I expand this, that's the only layer that we have, layer 0, and it says that it's white, but it's actually black. Well, it shows white because we have a black background, but it's going to print out black. Don't ask why, just go with it. I'll explain the printing settings later. If you want to add more layers, we need to go to layer properties. So I'll click on that. Layer properties will open up this layer tab for us, which, let me expand it. Let me just make sure that you see it. There we go. So here we have these 4 icons. Create new layer, freeze, new layer, frozen. Oh, create a new layer that's frozen, delete layer, and set a layer to current. We don't care about these 3, we only care about creating new layers. So I'm going to be doing that. I'll click on this create new layer tab, and I'll choose, and I'll say thick line, or just thick, right? So creating new layer, calling it thick. Create one more layer, call it medium, and create one more layer, call it thin, right? So we have these 3 layers here. Thick, medium, thin. Great. What can you do with them? You can turn them on or off, you can freeze them, and you can log them. For now, just ignore the freeze area. Just think of it this way. If you log them, you can't select the geometry of that particular layer in the viewport, which is quite useful when you have a lot of stuff layered on top of each other. Stuff that you don't want to select can be locked, which is nice. Then are those layers printable? Can you print? So that's the plot area here. What kind of color do those layers have? What's the display color? And what kind of line type and line weight? So we will be changing that in just I guess in the next tutorial. But for now, I'll just change the colors just so that we can distinguish between thick, medium, and thin, right? So the thick layer, I always like to choose red from here. Medium, I always like to use blue. And thin, I always like to use green. But it's absolutely up to you. This is just something that I'm used to. And as I'm drawing, this is the way I color code my lines. That's about it. Right, so we have our layers set up, and I'll keep the 0 layer for now. That's fine. That's okay. Once we have them set up, I can close. And now I can create, or not create, but now I can expand this drop-down list of layers, and I can choose which one is going to be my active one, the one in which I draw. So I'll choose thick layer here. Thick is my active one. And now as I draw a circle, for instance, it's going to be red because it lives in that layer. If I draw another one, it's also red, right? All of them are red. If I want to change a layer of an object, all I need to do, or multiple objects, all I need to do is just select them. And in the drop-down list, I just choose the layer, right? Once I hit escape, I'm back to my to the active layer in which I'm drawing, but now the layers of these two objects have been changed, and I can see that blue might not go well with the recording. So I will go to layer properties and change this blue to cyan, right? To cyan, not cyan, cyan, just so that they pop a little bit better. There we go. So that's that, right? Working with layers, really easy in AutoCAD. Let's start drawing. So I'm gonna start drawing in thick layer with thick lines because I'm going to be drawing a plan, and I'm going to be, I'll start drawing from the walls, right? Or rather from the section of the walls. So the plan is cut at 1.2 meters. Yeah, it's cut at 1.2 meters so that you are cutting through windows above the tables and whatnot. So it's like a locked number. You can always kind of adjust the height, you know, for different projects if there's a need for that. But the default, you know, the default number that you should have in your head is 1.2 meters. So that's how high we're gonna be cutting our plan, or our building and showing the plan through the cut. So if we go into the course website and kind of read through this, I can somewhere here, that's the course description, that's the deliverables. Yeah, there we go. No matter which client is chosen, the building footprint cannot exceed 25 square meters. Okay, that's like 5 by 5, sure, but 5 by 5 is not that convenient for me. I'm thinking of 6 by 4, perhaps. Yeah, sure. Let's do 6 by 4. We'll see how we can cram it in. I haven't planned it out in my head, so it might be a very crappy, very crappy building. But this is just to showcase the way you work in AutoCAD. Right. So I'm going to have a building that has a footprint of 6 by 4 meters, 6,000 by 4,000 millimeters. So I'm going to actually create a rectangle, R-E-C-T, rect. I'll start drawing it from anywhere, doesn't matter. And I will say that I'm going to draw it in dimensions rather than just clicking somewhere else on the screen. So D, enter, right? D, enter, and then I type in the length, which is 6,000, enter. Did I not? Yes, 6,000. And now it asks me for the width, and the width is going to be 4,000. Actually, I can kind of get away with 4,200, but for now, I'll just say 24 square meters. That's fine as well. 4,000. So, and then I'll just choose that, yeah, here, whatever. There's the rectangle there. So that's my outer footprint, right? Outer footprint. My walls have thickness, of course, and for this I will say that the wall thickness is going to be 400 millimeters, the outer wall thickness, around 400 millimeters. Usually they are a little bit thicker than that, but it's a summer house, it's a pretty small house, so 400 is okay. So what I want to do is actually I want this rectangle to go inwards, to make a copy of this rectangle inwards by 400 millimeters. And there's a tool that does that. I will show it on the side here real quickly. If I have a polyline or a line segment, and I use a tool that's called offset. Offset. Oh, I think it's, yeah, it's just O, enter. And I type in the distance. So here I'll just type in 400, enter. Then I can select the line segment here, and I can offset it to either side, to here or here, doesn't matter, and click. And then I know that between these two lines, the gap is indeed 400 millimeters, right? So that's offset. Really useful. Also works with polylines. Offset 400, like that, right? If I were to draw the same shape or similar shape with line segments, though, like that, and then I did offset. Keyboard, come on. Offset 400. Then, since I drew this with polyline and this with line tool, this is exploded. So that means that my offset is going to be a little bit more tricky, like that, right? I will need to offset every line separately, and then I will need to TR, trim, enter, enter, and trim away the doodads here, right? Clean it up. Now they're kind of the same. The only difference is that this is exploded while this is joined up, right? So back here, back to our plan, I can just do offset 400 and offset it inwards by 400. Inwards because we are already at 25 square meters. Or 24 square meters, so I can't offset it outwards. I need to offset it inwards, right? So that's the, the thing that we're going to be working with, right? That's our inner area. Not a lot of stuff to work on. So let me just quickly plan this out. Let's say we have some sort of a block here, toilet, shower room, entrance. Kind of work. Okay, so let's say I want a separate room here, right, in this area, where I'm going to have my bathroom, my shower, and whatnot in this particular room, right? And it's going to be a little bit of an awkward room, but that's going to work out. So I am going to create a line segment, right? And I'll just kind of draw it out from this corner point to this corner point, like so, and hit enter, right? So now what I have here is I have a duplicate line, right? There's this polyline here and also this line segment. The reason why I do this is because now I can take this line segment, I can select it. If you have problems selecting it, you can always use the blue marking tool and just select it that way. And I can type in offset. And let's say, how wide? So the smallest shower that is kind of nice, still nice to have, is around 900 millimeters. So we can't have it thinner than that. So I will say 900 millimeters. Such a bad space, though. Such a bad space. Okay, let's do, instead of 900, I will do 1 meter at least. Yeah, 1 meter, it creates an offset, right? And now for this line, so this is going to be like a mark where my bathroom ends. So I want to make this into a wall. So I will offset it again. I click on it. And I'll type in 140 millimeters, 14 centimeters. That's enough for the inner walls, right? 14 millimeters. And once I'm done, I just hit escape or enter, doesn't matter. And I have my my 2 line segments that describe an inner wall right here. I still do have that line segment here that I used, right? But I don't need it anymore, so I'll just select it and hit delete. Just get rid of it altogether. Right. So that's my 2 line segments. Now what I want is I want to get rid of this segment here and this segment here. So that is trim, right? TR, enter, enter. And then click, enter. Easy, right? I've just successfully deleted those 2 segments, and now I have a room here and a room here. I don't have any doors or windows or anything, but I do have a room that's 1 meter here, and all of the remaining area is located here. This is not clean anymore because this polyline and this line segment are 2 separate entities. I want to join everything up so that this is a rectangle, this is a rectangle, and this is a rectangle, so that I have 3 rectangles here. So I'll select all of it and type in join, hit enter, and yeah, that's it. It just joins them up, right? So now this is a rectangle, 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 closed. Very important that they are closed. So that is that. Let's create an entrance doorway, right? Or let's create a doorway into the bathroom, right? So I'm going to create a line segment just from here to here, from the midpoint to the midpoint, because I want the door to be centered. And the door is 90 centimeters. So the width of the door is 90 centimeters. The height of the door is usually in between 2.1 meters and 2.2. Depends on what kind of door you're using. But usually what I like to do is do 2.2 meter height doors and add, if I need to, then I add framing inside, so it kind of eats up a little bit of that height. Either way, we have the line segment. I will offset it. I'll specify the offset distance to be, because I want to offset it to both sides. It will be 45 centimeters, so 450 millimeters. Hit enter. And now I can just offset it up and offset it down like that, right? Stay with me. I hit enter. Now I don't need the middle segment anymore, so I can just select it, delete it, right? And I have these 2 segments now. So I'll say trim, enter. I'll just trim away this, trim, enter, enter. Always forget to do the double enter. And I'll just trim away these 2 line segments here, right? So now what I've done is I created an opening in the wall, right? For the door to be in. I can select all of this, type in join. And now all of these segments are joined. So I have 1 polyline here and 1 polyline here. Great. Let's do this again. I will keep doing this just so that you can follow along quite easily. So I want a door here, right? And I probably want, so if there's a shower here, I do want to have a window. And there's a toilet here. I do want to have a window here, right? Right, so door, window. Okay, I will create a line segment from here to here. And I will offset it by 900 millimeters to the side, like so. Trim, enter, enter rather. And then the same thing here. Actually, this one can be the same size as the door. So I'll just kind of be cheeky about it and just start drawing from the doorway, like so. Trim, enter, enter. TR, not trim, god damn it, I keep forgetting. TR for trimming, and I create an opening here. So door, door, window. And it's probably going to have a window somewhere here, but we'll kind of take care of that side later. Okay. The thing is, well, first of all, let's clean everything up by selecting the walls and joining them up, just so that this is closed and this is closed, right? So everything is kind of neat and dandy. The thing is that here, while we are cutting through the doorway here, we don't see the bottom of the doorway. All we see is just kind of floor, 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 floor. But here the window probably will not reach the floor, right? So that means that we will see the windowsill, right? We will see the bottom of the window opening in the plan. And I can, I need to show it, right? So I'm going to go to the layers, and I'll say that the layer in which I'm going to draw is the medium layer. So let's talk about this just a second. Thick layer is used to specify all of the lines which you get from cutting something, right? So I'm cutting the walls, right? And I'm looking at the cut of the walls, meaning that they will be shown thick in the thick line. Medium line is stuff that you see as a projection, right? So you're not cutting through it, but you can still see it. So in this case, if I have a if I have a window, oh my God! Wait, just bear with me. Sure, that's fine. So let's say I have a window, you know, that has some sort of partitioning, whatever. It's just a window, right? In the facade, and I am cutting through that window, like so, right? At this height, I'm cutting through it, and I'm looking at it downwards. I'm looking at the cut, you know, straight downwards. That means that I will see the frame. I will be cutting through the frame. I will be cutting through the glass, frame again, and then wall, right? So wall, frame, glass, frame, wall. But also I will be seeing the hole here, right? I will be seeing the windowsill. So that windowsill is not a cut. Rather, it's just a projection. It's just something that I see. Meaning that I use a medium line, grab a line tool, and I just draw it from here to here, enter. Or rather, let's just draw a rectangle instead. Might as well. Polyline tool, like that, that. That's the windowsill, right? And I still have the red lines above it, I guess, like the cut above it. It's just that visually AutoCAD needs to choose which kind of geometry to show. If there's like two geometries on top of each other, so it just chooses to show the medium one, but we don't care because we know that we have the thick line above it. And my camera died. Just a second. God damn it. Yeah. Bim. Ooh. You're good? Right? We're good. Okay. So that's the windowsill, right? Now for the frame, we'll do the frames in the next tutorial. For the doors as well, right? As long as we have the windowsill is fine. One more thing is we have the floor slab, right? And then we have the outside, you know, the ground, the gravel, and so on. Those are things that are in two different heights and two different levels, right? Because usually you have like a step or two steps near the entrance and blah, blah, blah. Which means that there's a line where the floor slab ends, right? Where the floor just ends. We need to mark that line. So I'll use the line tool and just mark it here. That's where my floor slab ends. Right? So we have that going on now. Nice. We will be adding doors here. The next tutorial, a toilet, shower. It's a little bit. It's gonna be a little bit tricky to plan out, but we'll figure it out. We will figure it out. For now, this is all that you need to do. Practice the lines, practice the tools, and so on, and draw out just the walls with the openings shown, right, properly. So this is the level of detail that you should have after the first day of tutorials. Next up, I will not need to show you every tool, so we will make a lot of more progress in terms of drawing in the next tutorial. For now, get to work and have fun. Bye.